Then others we're doing um, by Zoom and always by the Thelma D. Jones Facebook page. Our interim rector, Reverend Cara Rockhill, sends her greeting, but we have an interesting program going on as usual. And you're welcome to partake in the great food that was done by a caterer, Makita, who actually stepped away. So hopefully she will be back and you'll get to meet her. And not only get to meet her, but you can check with me about the quality of her food. And even if you're in another area, you can still consider having her cater your food services. We hope that she will become our official caterer, and she's also a resident of Southwest. When I asked her how long had she been catering, and she said, all of my life. So I guess she's one of those babies that came out of the womb and went to the kitchen. But I think that's really wonderful. And as I said, I hope you'll get to meet her later on. So the Thelma D, let me just tell you a little bit about the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund as we um, start our wonderful program that we have in store. The Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund's mission is to help to improve the overall quality of life of women and men as we work to reduce the incidence of breast cancer, the incidence and mortality rates of breast cancer. As some of you may know, the District of Columbia has one of, if not the highest, incidence and mortality rates of breast cancer in the United States, which is not very good to say about our nation's capital. And we carry out our mission through outreach, support, and education. We do this using evidence based information. Our mission is to embrace and achieve a world free of breast cancer. Tonight, we have, as we try to always have friends that we met along the way, friends who've been with us ever since the way started and to help us to go through the way. And I'm making that reference to our facilitator, Yao E. Odamtten, who is an MSW candidate and 25. Yao and I have known each other since our days at the World Bank Group, where we worked closely. And many of the great programs that were going on during our era are programs that Yao and I started and made sure that they not only carried out the mission of the World Bank, but that we reached out to African Americans in the community and particularly the high schools, Cardozo High School, Bell Multicultural High School, and others. We also reached out regularly to our schools here in Southwest, Jefferson Middle School, and Amadon Bowen Elementary. So I am very proud of the things that Yao and I did together, and I'm very proud to say that I can call on him to facilitate this evening's meeting. And Yao will tell you what he does, but his title is that he's a biopsychosocial counselor in the departments of pediatrics and child health and infectious disease at Howard University School of Medicine and Howard University Hospital. As we, or some of you know, the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund and Howard University Cancer Center has had a long-standing partnership. As a matter of fact, Howard University Cancer Center was one of our first major cancer centers to become a partner with the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund. And I also represent the recipient of the award of Dr. Lori Wilson, who was also a breast surgeon at Howard University Hospital. This evening, we're going to have some really interesting speakers. And this is one of my favorite subjects, genetics, and, or I should say, children of parents with breast cancer, living and deceased. And we have meticulously selected an audience that's really going to help raise the awareness about what is like for a child to live with a parent. We also, through our guest speaker, will give insights on what it's like having a sister. So our guest speaker, Dionne Brown, will share her experiences with her sister, who is on Zoom, Crystal Stoning. Last month, we had 5 states represented. I think it was Massachusetts. Well, I won't embarrass myself by trying to remember them, but I know Massachusetts was one of them. And tonight we have a speaker who is in Houston, Texas. And we also have a dear friend of mine's daughter. So we have Keisha Brown in Houston, Texas, who is the daughter of Janelle Leonard, who will be speaking later on. And then we have Asia, who is speaking. So Asia White will be speaking from Virginia Beach. And I understand there's at least 5 other people there supporting her from Virginia Beach. So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to bring forward with warmth and welcome our facilitator, Yao E. Odamtten. Let's give Yao a welcome. Thank you, Yao.
Good evening, everybody. Let's try that again. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. My name is Yao Odamtten, and as Thelma mentioned, we go way back in the day, where I worked more at what I call the macro level, helping organizations tell complicated stories to people all over the world. My background is primarily in storytelling and education. I'm now at the micro level. When I say micro, meeting people individually where they are, helping them unearth their own stories and begin to dream about what could be the potential for new stories. As you see in this title, whatever that means, biopsychosocial counselor, let me break that down. Bio just means life, meaning that I work in the medical setting. So I have access to your medical records. I work with your entire medical team, plain and simple. Psychosocial, all I want you to think about is a therapist. I'm your therapist. Whether it's HIV, whether it's AIDS, whether it's cancer, name the diagnosis, part of my mandate is to help navigate you through the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s of your ailments, and then your care, helping you through decision-making, educating you accordingly, and helping you figure out what the best treatment and course of treatment will be for you. So that's all I do. It sounds like nothing, but it's a heavy load. It's a very heavy load being with people in the most vulnerable times of their lives, where life and death become a conversation, where people try to navigate where they go from there. So let's just get started. I'm going to just start with a little tidbit here on genetic testing. What is genetic testing and what is genetic counseling? I'm going to begin with something called a genogram. And genogram is something that anyone can do at home. Thank you so much. A genogram is essentially a family tree, but it's a bit more than just a family tree. In this family tree, you're able to document much more. You can document employment amongst my family members. You can navigate and show communication styles and communication patterns between individual people within family. You can also see health constraints between family members. So you might see on your mother's side, breast cancer seems to run on that side. On your father's side, there seems to be from one relative to another, sickle cell seems to run through those lines, or whether it's bipolar or schizophrenia, you can see those linkages accordingly. How is this done? Thank you. How is this done? It's really through talking, engaging. And this is what you at home can do with anybody right now. Talking to your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your uncles accordingly. And with that information, you just start noting little details. Interesting. This uncle has this and this auntie has this. Oh, on my mother's side, there seems to be a linkage there. So a genogram is just a family tree that helps you see more than just the genetics, but other aspects of social dimensions. And this little graph you see here, not to go too much into details, but in the genogram, these are symbols that we use to make connections amongst people, whether by their gender, male, female, etc. And then also on the right-hand side, where I put socio-environmental connections, these are slightly more complicated graphical type symbols that you can use to link people together. Once you're done with it, it's truly an amazing picture. Wow, I had no idea that me living in this house with this uncle, it affected how these three cousins behaved. And now they're living internationally because my background was international. And prior to me joining the family, there was nothing international about that, like that side of the family. Just giving you an example of how that functions. You can go to the next slide. All right. This picture here is just basically a cell, a nucleus, and a chromosome within a DNA. The picture you see on the right-hand side is actually a picture of my youngest sister. You can't quite see it clearly here, but her pinky finger, this one, and then her daughter's pinky finger, if you notice, they're crooked. Both of them are crooked. When she mentioned to me that her daughter, my niece, had a crooked pinky finger, I said, wait a minute. Oh, that gene passed on to you. And she's like, yeah. And I had no idea, but my father also has a crooked pinky finger. And my sister's two sons also have what? Crooked pinky fingers. So here you see a gene being passed on through my father's line. My mother has a crooked finger. No one on my father's mother's side has a crooked finger, but this crooked pinky finger is dominant on my mother's side, and it seems to have passed through my youngest sister through her children. Now, my sister that comes after me and myself, we have the typical straight-looking pinky finger. So just to give an example of how you can use a genogram to track just through basic conversation. Oh, this seems to be happening. It clues the light and turns it on to make you think a little bit more about, what could this mean? This is just a crooked pinky finger. This could be something a bit more severe, like a BRCA2 testing, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, go to the next slide. Thank you so much. So what does a genogram do? When you typically go to your physician, one of the first questions they ask you is, do you have any family history of high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, sickle cell, etc.? What your physician's asking you is, do you have any idea of what ailments run through your family line, through your bloodline? That's all they're asking. A genogram will give you an in-depth look at all those aspects of things. So one of the things that it does, it connects you to conditions within the family line. Behavioral and social trends, you get to see where particular behavioral trends run within the family and how that might affect you. And also the risk of identification helps you pinpoint specific individuals that are either 1 degree to you, 2 degrees, 6 degrees from you with particular ailments. So clues you in as to, might this be something I want to take a closer look at should something develop for me later down in life? So in that sense, it really allows you to make more informed decisions about your overall medical care. So whenever your physician asks you, oh, does your mother have high blood pressure, your father have blood pressure, or had anyone had a stroke in your family? They're not just asking it out of the whim. They're trying to see where the genetic connections are within your family and what that connection might be for you. Go to the next slide. Now we move on to what is actually genetic testing. Yeah, I've gone over this. So basically, the genogram helps you, highlights familial linkages to make those connections accordingly, but also reveals who within your family relatives have particular elements, cousins, aunts, et cetera, et cetera. All right, you can get to the next slide again. Thank you. So what is genetic testing? Genetic testing is a bit more invasive. Invasive in the sense that it has a purpose, and that is to, it collects your DNA, whether it's through a blood sample, saliva, or say a specimen sample. It's tested and analyzed to look for specific genetic markers in terms of your genome, your genes, or proteins. All of those will be examined to find out whether you might have some form of, say, cancer or sickle cell, some other ailment. The purpose, again, is just identify any inherited mutations you might have received from a family member accordingly through the bloodline. The process, again, as I said, is blood, saliva, or collected sample. And then the outcome is, if it tests positive, if the sample tests positive for one of what you call an indicator, all it does is allow you to make the next best decision as to what you want to do regarding your medical care. Okay, the more you know, the better you can go. The more we live in absentia, we live in, I don't want to know, you live in a state of either fear or just, I just don't want to know. Then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 years down the line, here you are with something that's metastasized. But had you looked at it that first year, when you got that first inkling, perhaps something could have been done. Whether it had been a medication, whether it could have been a risk-reducing surgery, for example, these things can be taken care of. But when we hold on to secrets, secrets can take us in different directions. And I think within our Black families, we hold a lot of secrets. And this is where the genogram comes into play. Talk, y'all. Talk, talk, talk. Find out what's going on. Who was that uncle that did this and that and the other? Who was that sister that did this and the other? Who was that who was that niece and that seemed to die at age 4? Why? Oh, it was sickle cell? Oh, age 4? Yeah, she was actually one of 2 twins. This information will help feed you as you make your next best decisions for yourself. Okay? All right, go to the next slide. So now we move to genetic counseling. What is genetic counseling? I'm a counselor in a broad range of areas as it contains medical diagnoses. Genetic counseling is really, all it is sitting down with a healthcare professional who's been trained to guide you through decisions, to guide you through understanding what your diagnosis is, interpreting the information. So you typically get from your doctor labs that look like gobbledygook, like what language is this? This is German, French, it's Chinese, all mixed into one. I have no idea what to say. Well, part of what we do is we turn this complicated language into simple language that you understand and in the language that you speak. And then from there, we also help you pinpoint the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s, potential roadmaps that you might want to explore. On that level, we look at educational and treatment resources. So we'll provide you names of doctors, physicians, support groups, just to even begin the conversation to find out what you have. I mean, anyone diagnosed with any ailment, whether it's cancer, HIV, diabetes, period, what happens? You're thrown into a state of trauma. Initially, sometimes it's shock. This is not happening to me. Amnesia, oh, I don't have this. Then a couple of days later, a couple of weeks, a couple of months later, it starts hitting you that, oh my God, I think I do have this. I have to deal with this. So all the stages of trauma are indicative of any kind of ailment, cancer being one of them. And then on the psychosocial support, this is where one is provided both psychosocial support in terms of your mental health, your emotional health, and also your psychological health. So all of that plays into play. And spiritual health is a big part of it also. So when you're working with a counselor, a good counselor will make sure you get all of this: the training, the education, the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, resources that could help and guide you, and then also the psychosocial counseling and support you need just to stabilize yourself as you continue to make decisions that might at first look scary. Okay, we're here to hold your hand and guide you through the process. Next slide. So in essence, what are the benefits? If we can just go to one right for the benefits of genetic testing and genetic counseling is that it enables us to work with you to really focus on early detection. Prevention is the best. If the cell is this big, why not deal with it now versus it growing and metastasizing into something the size of your stomach? At this point, what do we do? See what I see? See the point? And it's hard. It's not easy for people to really step into a diagnosis. It's very hard. But we're here to guide you. You're not alone. And there have been people who've been through what you've been through, and that's what support groups are for. They're to help you emotionally, to provide resources, hit each other up for information. Oh, I went through this. Oh, I took the medication at this time. Oh, I took it with this. It helped the side effects. Information is out there, okay? So that's just a little bit about what genetic testing and genetic counseling is all about. We're going to move the program forward, moving forward right now. But one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pass to those who are here a sample of a genogram that I was forced to do last October with my family. Wow, it's not in depth. It's just the basics, like the first, say, 3 or 4 items that you need: family names, age, etc., etc. But from here, it can be built out much more. So I'll just pass this around to get a sense of what a genogram looks like. And if anybody wants help doing one, I'll be more than happy to do that with you. For an assignment. For an assignment, yes. For a class assignment at Howard University, where I'm a master's student in social work. With the master's program, it's in depth, it's detailed. And one of the things that I have found myself doing with my patients and clients at Howard University Hospital is genogram work. They have no idea I'm doing it though. Just through conversation. Also, Thelma, really? So that uncle that you mentioned, so what does he do? You don't realize I'm recording this in my head and I'm writing it down. I'm creating a genome map for you. And in time, say 3 or 4 weeks later, I will produce this and show this to you. So the questions you were asking, I don't know where this came from. Baby, I can show you where it came from. You mentioned this person, this is through your father's line. It skipped a generation, continued here. And it's all there. But I don't share this with patients initially. They don't realize we're just engaging in conversation. Family, your brother, your sister. So your youngest brother, oh, he's in Reston, Virginia. Oh, I see. Wait, oh, he's homeless? Oh, what happened with him? Oh, he's paranoid schizophrenic. Paranoid schizophrenic. I see. Oh, I see. When was he was actually diagnosed as paranoid schizophrenia? Yeah. When? Oh, around 2021. They have no idea what I'm doing in my head. Age of onset, age of diagnosis, are medical things is roughly around the 20s. Like, okay, this is alignment. And now this patient of mine is that, I see, I'm seeing the connections. They don't see what I'm seeing, but I share this with them eventually. And this is why genetic testing, genetic counseling can come in very helpful, particularly at the very beginning, get you on board to treat your ailment as soon as possible versus waiting until something metastasizes and becomes larger than it used to be, needs to be. Stage 1, let's get it there, versus stage 3, stage 4. All right. Okay, let's continue with the program. I want to now introduce Madame Dionne Brown. She's from, oh, no worries. No worries. No worries at all. Ms. Dionne Brown, I'm gonna have you come forward. She's a sister to Crystal Stoney. Oh, the blessing first. Okay, we'll do the blessing first, and then we'll continue on. Please. You're most welcome.
Good evening, everyone. One thing about prayer is it is retroactive. So you are included, and from where we go on. So if we will all close our eyes and be of one mind and one heart for this evening. Dear Heavenly Father, let us graciously thank you for allowing us to be here this evening, safe and sound. And Father, for all those who are on Zoom or Facebook, we also extend this prayer to them and their well being. Father, thank you for allowing this evening to happen. It did not happen haphazardly, it was planned as they all are. Let us be open to each and every speaker. Let us show our compassion. Let us also listen and be educated on how we can help each other and our family. Father, prayer is, as we come into this holiday season, that we find the things that we are grateful for, that we are looking forward to, and Father, sharing the love of the season. Let us not forget the reason for the season. As we sit here this evening and take in all of these wonderful speakers, let us also think of all of the things that did not happen, that could have happened. But that as we pray and keep you close, we ask for a hedge of protection around us, for our health, for our family, and for our safety. And Father, just again, just thank you. We made it from January to December. And let us all continue to pray that we will see 2025 and continue with our love, continue with our sharing, and continue with our respect and our integrity. Let us take all of those into the new year. In the precious name of Jesus, amen.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Small. A lovely blessing. We're now going to turn the floor over to Miss Crystal Stoney, who I believe is online with the programming. So we're going to switch to online, and then after then, Crystal's sister, Miss Dionne Brown, will speak.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Excuse me. I'm Crystal Stoney, and in 2023, literally 8 days after my 61st birthday, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And during that process, I had a cancer team that worked directly with me. And one of the persons that was part of my team was a genetic specialist. And when she started explaining everything to me, because I was really indecisive, because my surgeon and my plastic surgeon that I met with originally wanted to do a lumpectomy. But when she explained everything that genetic testing does, I chose to do the genetic testing before making this decision that would affect both myself, my husband, and my kids, and the rest of my family. When she came back with the results of the genetic testing, it made it easy for me to make a decision on what to do for me and for my health and for my well-being, which I did a bilateral mastectomy. Because with the genetic testing, I had 40 to 80% chance of reoccurrence of breast cancer. So I felt instead of taking myself through it twice, I just do it one time. And that's what I did. And when she explained to me that I need to make notification to my family members, she actually told me my siblings and my parents, but I went beyond that. I notified my nieces. I notified my cousins because I felt like genetic testing is very important. And I had a couple of women that tell me it was never offered to them. I told them, even if it's not offered, ask, because it would help you make a decision for your life and for your health. And that's pretty much was it for me, because I made a decision. I'm happy with the decision I made. And I made it with my family. And if anybody have a question, I'm here to answer any question that you have. So I take it as no question.
Good evening. I have a question.
Okay.
My name is Mr. Jerry Robinson. My question is the young lady that was not provided the information, or she did not know the particular questions to ask. How frequently has that occurred within the population of the women that's going through the different situations?
Well, I can tell you from my experience, I'm actually in a support group on Facebook with women pretty much all over the country. And that was one of the questions that came up one time. And excuse me, several women really said they were never introduced to it. Their doctors never talked to them about it. And I told them, go back and ask them and do it, especially women that they had yet made the decision on what they were going to do. They have been diagnosed, but they hadn't made a decision whether to do a lumpectomy or a mastectomy. And a lot of them actually went and had it done and was happy to have had it done, because they came back and actually sent me a message thanking me for that advice.
If I can add to that, thank you so much for that question, a very important one. One thing we should also recognize is that we do live in these United States. Not everything is fair. When I speak about that, we're talking about socioeconomic status. Black women, I'm just saying it, are the bottom of the totem pole. Bottom of the totem pole. If you don't have good insurance, you're not going to get your thing. It's not going to be mentioned to you, period. And I'm just keeping it real. I keep it 100 with my people. I keep it 100. So this is where it comes into play that you vote at the local level, the municipal level, the state level, the national level for people who are concerned about the issues that you are concerned about. It's highly, highly important. And then you get engaged with your community. That involvement is everything. So even though I work at the micro level one-on-one with individuals, I work at the macro level in place spaces where I go to a council meeting to make sure that my hospital is getting X, Y, and Z, to make sure that my community is getting X, Y, and Z. It's very, very important. It's very, very important.
And I know the testing that I did actually allowed my family to test for free. My siblings, my parents, and my kids.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. We do have government programs that do sponsor free testing across a range of different diagnoses, but we have to be very mindful of the season that we're walking into now, where a lot of social programs and healthcare programs will be cut. And I say that just knowing how things are being affected here in Washington, D.C. A number of people in the healthcare sector will be losing their employment shortly. Budgets have been, it's not just slashed, wholly cut on particular issues as they concern women in gynecological care, as an example. So it's very important that people, you really step up and stand up for what you want and what you believe in. Highly, highly important. So I'm really glad that you were able to get, the whole family was able to get tested accordingly.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So I think my sister's going to speak next.
Yes, I'm here. Good evening. My name is Dionne Brown, and I am famous for being the sister, the youngest sister of Crystal Stoney. She didn't mention that she's a retired Metropolitan Police officer and one of the bravest people I know. I mean, when she was on the force, we never feared for her, and she served during the crack era, but she was tough. She's a fighter, and she's fearless. So, and she approached this breast cancer diagnosis with that same spirit. I am a management consultant by trade, and my academic background is in health policy, but my focus as a consultant involves healthcare operations, health IT, and whatever anybody wants to pay me to do. And I'm a habitual volunteer because whatever I believe in, I'm going to throw myself behind. And I have people who call on me for a wide variety of things. And if I believe in it and I see that it's constructive and worth my while, I'm going to go dive in with them. And that's why I'm here today, because of Thelma Jones' advocacy. I believe in what she does. And I don't know anyone more passionate and resourceful when it comes to this work. In 2003, I had my first mammogram at the age of 35 because I did have a family history of breast cancer. And at the time, I was traveling a lot for work. So they were sending letters to my house, leaving voicemails that I never answered. And finally, they caught up with me and was like, "Why are you ignoring us? You might have breast cancer." I was like, "Oh my God, I don't know who taught this woman." But so I had to go through a variety of processes. And fortunately, I had access to one of the best breast specialists in Washington, D.C. because of her friendship with my primary care provider. I was forced to develop a treatment plan before the biopsy results returned, which was very stressful because in my mind, I had breast cancer. Fortunately, also, though, I had good insurance, a good job, and represented a business opportunity for the providers because they were going to get paid for my treatment. Therefore, they were ready to get to work on me, but fortunately, the results were benign. But my mind was still racing, and my big sister let me use her timeshare, and I spent a week in Aruba to kind of recover and decompress from this whole experience. While I was in Aruba, my grandmother died of breast cancer. And I think that's what was driving my anxiety while I was going through the process. Fast forward 20 years, Crystal's diagnosis and her BRCA2 positive test. She was very conscientious about notifying us and sharing the information about how to get tested. And the fact that the test was funded helped a lot. It would have been helpful to me if I could just walk in and get the test, but it didn't work like that. I had to go to my primary care physician first, then get a referral to the breast clinic, and then get a referral to a genetics counselor who said, "Do you want to get tested?" I'm like, "Why do you think I'm here?" And while we were going through that process, though, I had to collect my family history. And, you know, in the Black family, we talk about people dying of cancer, but we don't know what kind of cancer they died from. They just died of cancer. And a lot of it was behavioral, like smokers having lung cancer and all that. So I never thought about cancer being genetic, as far as it concerned me anyway. As I was going through this, I also learned of a lot of broken genetic threads in our family tree, i.e., Pa ain't Pa. And so some people weren't kin to us the way we or didn't share the same genes or whatever. But that happens too. It was fortunate that I had a lot of reach back to my professional network, which included Thelma Jones, with whom I served on the Georgetown Lombardi Cancer Center Community Advisory Board with, and Lucille Adams Campbell, who oversees that board. And anybody in my professional reach, I've been consulting for 30 years now, and I was on the phone calling everybody. So by the time I presented myself, I was treated at Inova Fairfax in Virginia, and they are very well resourced, which means they have a lot of money. And they actually have been my client in the past too. So when I got there, I got like the red carpet VIP treatment. They were like, people been calling us about you. Come on in. And they treated me very well. At the time, initially I was self-employed, or I am self-employed. So initially I didn't have health insurance when I started this process. But again, I was fortunate because I'm the caregiver to a disabled veteran relative who lives with me. And so I have insurance now through the VA as his caregiver. To make my decision, I was skittish about the interventions. When Crystal told me she was having the bilateral mastectomy, I was like, ooh, that's some white people stuff. And I consult in healthcare, and I had to check myself. I was like, you know, healthy choices are not white people stuff. Black people should be making healthy choices too. And as we know the saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So I opened myself to pursue the measures to minimize the probability of having breast cancer. As a consultant, I do deal with a lot of morbidity and mortality data, but that was no longer abstract. It's easy to deal with those numbers when you're not in them. And so, yeah, I was being thrown for a lot of loops. So when I got to the point of testing, I didn't know what test I want. When I was with the genetic counselor, she said, well, which test you want? And she pulled out this table, and it had like 70 tests on it. I said, I don't know. And she said, well, your sister tested positive for, you know, BRCA2, and they got BRCA1. Your doctor gave you an order for that. But we have all these other mutations that are associated with other forms of cancer and blah, 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 blah. I said, why can't you test me for all of them? She said, we can. I said, well, go ahead. And we did that. And fortunately, I was negative for all 70. And my mind didn't race as fast as it did with the first round of tests. I mean, my first cancer scare. That wasn't even my first cancer scare. I had a whole nother cancer scare before that. The predictive model estimated my lifetime risk at about, I think it was 21% upon the initial visit when they plugged in my family history and all my personal data. And that decreased to 6% after I tested negative, which is below the national average of 14%, which was a relief. I enjoyed doing the work in terms of my healthcare consulting, but I did not enjoy being a subject. And I got a bill about a month ago, and I just paid it today because I really wasn't thinking about it. But the charge for the testing, the overall charge was $9,500. And with the insurance adjustments, and they got it down to like $1,700. Insurance paid 16 of that. I only had to pay $100. So I said for 70 tests, hey, that wasn't bad. So but a lot of that was because of the Invitae offer from Crystal's testing that covered the initial testing, and I had to just pay the 100 because I got all 70. No regrets though. As a result, I've become an ambassador for the cause. I have a lot of friends who are survivors. It's crazy. I have friends with high incidence of cancer in their families, and I've been working the phones, or we're talking, hanging out, having dinner. I bring it up, and I said, you better get tested, and I follow up with them, tell them how to engage the system. And also in my broader social circle, I have a ridiculously high incidence of cancer. I've lost 5 friends this year alone to cancer, including my grad school roommate who died of brain cancer in July or June. Her funeral was in July. And a close friend of mine passed of pancreatic cancer recently. His service is 2 days from now on Friday. I'm stuck in this perpetual grief loop, not just from cancer. I just know a lot of people. I'm a retired party girl, but I just knowing a lot of people, you're gonna know a lot of people who die. And when you know a lot of Black people too, you especially gonna know a lot of people who die prematurely. And unfortunately, I couldn't convince any of my family members to get tested. Crystal did the groundwork with like our cousins, siblings, and her kids. I don't think any of our other siblings got tested, and nobody got tested because of me, but they did because of her. And I have engaged in some lifestyle changes as a result, increasing my proportion of plant-based foods, decreasing alcohol consumption, adhering to the exercise plan that I was supposed to be committed to already, and managing stress effectively, because stress can become toxic and activate things that are in your body laying dormant. And, you know, you can have cancer cells in your body, but if you're a good specimen, you know, they just chilling. But when you get stressed and you have all this inflammation and hormonal imbalances and all this other stuff, it'll activate it. And it was like, oh, it's party time. And then it flares up. So I do that. I do TM, transcendental meditation, decluttering. We don't talk about that enough, but when your house is cluttered, it causes your brain to stress, which breeds inflammation, which again can make you sick. And emphasizing generosity and gratitude. A lot of times we just stress over stuff that doesn't matter. And I just try to focus on not on what I don't have, but on what I do have, and being very generous in sharing, because that actually does produce positive health outcomes when you have that particular mindset. So, you know, I count it a blessing that not that Crystal got sick, but that it has just regrounded me and helped me to approach life differently and connect our family, you know, strong in a stronger way. That's it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brown, and thank you so much, Ms. Tony, for your words. I'm going to just open the floor up now to any questions for both of the speakers that just spoke. I'll just briefly note that thank you so much for your words. You covered so many important issues such as case management, non-medical case management, taking care of thyself, meditation, nutrition. You change your eating habits, your relationship with your family, the way your sister gave you the timeshare in Aruba. Let's talk about that. I want to unpack that a little bit. Any questions from our audience online or in this room regarding anything that was stated by both Ms. Brown and Ms. Stoney? Please, yes. The question is, for those who can't hear, is with all the testing that was done within the Stone Brown family, were any other diagnoses found within the family? Would you like to share on that? Or Crystal, would you like to answer that?
No, it was nobody else, none of my kids, none of them. Well, my oldest sister is still going through right now. She hasn't got her final results, but everybody else, they got tested and no, nobody else was diagnosed.
That's wonderful. Okay, the question here is, the grandmother that passed away, what side of the family was she on?
That's my grandmother. And Crystal and I have different fathers. So that particular, and that grandmother's last surviving sister has breast cancer right now, but she was diagnosed at like 90-something years old, and they didn't consider that genetic, but there is breast cancer on that side of the family.
And it's important to know that the two greatest risk factors of breast cancer are being born a woman and growing older. Even though breast cancer is hitting our people, particularly young African American women in earlier age, being a woman and growing older.
Oh yeah, I have a good friend who was diagnosed at around 25, and she unfortunately passed, but she had like multiple recurrences. I think on her third recurrence, it was so aggressive they couldn't even treat it. And she
Incredible, incredible. Another thing that you mentioned, Ms. Brown, was, and it just hit me, you said, I'm stuck in a perpetual grief mode. When you have one family member or friend after another passing away, it's one thing to pass away at that generational point, at a particular age. We're used to that. Oh, you get older, you die when you're older. When people are dying at ages we're not expecting them to, it does have an effect on one. Could you speak more a bit about that?
Goodness, yes. I lost my first friend to cancer. She died the day before her 30th birthday. That was my best friend from elementary school. And I swear it took me a good 20 years to get over that because I just didn't feel life was fair that she died and died so prematurely. And her parents actually both died early because following her death, I think they just grieved to death. And that perpetual grief loop is no joke. I swear, when our friends talk, we're like, we're catching up on who else died that we didn't even know about. A lot of people are dying alone, post COVID. We really haven't fully started socializing again. Like my friend who just died, whose funeral was Friday, he had pancreatic cancer and he didn't tell us. He didn't tell any of his friends until about a month before he died. And he didn't even tell his children. And it just tore me up. I mean, tore me up that I couldn't support him and love on them or whatever. But everybody's entitled to deal with things howsoever they want to. But it does complicate the grief. And again, I just know so many people that I just keep going through this. And some people I don't know as well. Like I'm in a sorority and we get these newsletters and you see names of people who died. And I'm not always close to the people. But a lot of these people that I ran the streets with back in the day, these my people. And it hurts. I mean, I didn't sleep well for days after my last friend died. And it's like you don't even recover from one loss before the next hit come, and then the hits keep on coming. And I actually became a certified grief coach a few years ago. Had nothing to do with any of this, but just the fact that I noticed how, as a society, we don't socialize people on how to grieve. We turn on toxic positivity and say they're in a better place, or at least they're not suffering, or some other stuff, but they're not here, and you hurt. And you have to be able to console people and help them think through the loss and adjust to the person no longer being present. So I did that for me, and so I could be a first responder for grief for my friends and family. Oh God, that grieved me. I actually left the church while I was in seminary. So as I told Thelma, my parents said I spent a lot of money not to go to church, but it helped me in my personal faith. And it made me a stronger believer because I went through some stuff. I ain't gonna get into that. But I had a crisis of faith and I had to learn to stand on my own two legs spiritually versus leaning on the institution because the institution failed me. And so I'm like Jesus, just itinerant and untethered. And I just take my faith with me wherever I go and help people however I can.
Thank you so much for that testimonial. The hits keep on coming. Please know that when dealing with cancer or any other diagnosis, there are people out there. There are counselors, there are therapists who are dying, literally dying to be at your side to help you. I'm supposed to be on vacation this week, but am I? No, I'm not. I'll go on vacation starting Friday. But I have quite a number of intensive patients that I know this week is rough. This is the week before Christmas. The holiday seasons.
Yeah.
The holiday seasons are always rough for a whole lot of people. People who will not be there at the Thanksgiving table, who will not be there at the Christmas dinner table. And they grieve during this period. So there are a lot of people that are alone. So this is just a social worker in me. I take it upon myself to avail myself during this season, even though it's tough. This is the time when I should be, I'm done, because the load is heavy. But it's not heavy enough to be able to sit beside another person and help them guide them through their grief and their mourning accordingly. So please know, whether it's a local hospital or your local church, talk to your friends. There are people out there who are there to support you, your friends especially. I'm sorry that you had to go through the experience of your friend with pancreatic cancer not sharing. What was I saying about secrets? We keep so many secrets within our households. Um, I wish that wasn't the case. And that just goes to the stigma and the discrimination around these diagnoses. We're supposed to be ashamed of these diagnoses. I got a call this afternoon right here on my cell phone from a colleague of mine noting that someone's diagnosis had been released and the person was struggling right now and they feel that the whole community is against them. I will call this patient tomorrow and begin a process of helping her navigate disclosure and non-disclosure. Her diagnosis was disclosed in a way that she didn't ask for. But this is real. We have to work on stigma and discrimination, especially concerning cancer. Especially concerning cancer. When you're sick, you're sick. You just want to get better. Your time shouldn't be spent having to educate everybody else, but that's part of what comes with a diagnosis. There's a degree of educating people, but we do our best to educate ourselves first before we then tell the rest of the world, because it can get very, very, very heavy. But communication, I think is the best tool. Please reach out to people in your community, people you haven't heard from in a while. Check up on them, see how they're doing. Maybe surprise what they share with you. And whatever they share, don't run away. Be there. That's what we're here for. No human is an island unto themselves. I'm going to continue moving our program along. I just want to thank Ms. Stoney and Ms. Brown for both of their testimonials. I'm going to now move on to Ms. Keisha Brown, who's the daughter of Janelle Leonard. I believe she's also online. Yes.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
I want to thank everyone for especially the last two speakers, Ms. Brown and Ms. Stoney, from listening to all of your experience. It has been amazing to hear that. It brings back memories for myself. I didn't know I was going to go first. I thought I was going to follow up my mother, but I'll just.
You want me to?
You want to go ahead, Mom, and start
Okay,
now? I'll finish up.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do that.
All
Okay.
right. Okay.
Stay right where you are.
All
Okay. Good evening, everyone, especially those who are here and our virtual audience as well. My name is Janelle Leonard, and I'm a triple negative breast survivor. Okay, and so my story goes like this. I'm going to give you the abbreviated version of it, and I'll let y'all kind of diagnose or figure out what the it is in here. So it was July, I think, in 2019, and July, and I was just sitting on the sofa watching TV, and I felt a lump, and so I was like, is that a lump or is that a lump? And so and so 2 weeks. I mean, I kept messing around. It is a lump. And I didn't tell my daughter, right? Because I was in denial. I was like, that's not a lump. That's not a lump. And finally, like 2 to 3 weeks later, I told her. So knowing my daughter as I do, so that threw us into operation mode. Okay, let's get started. Let's do something. So schedule a meeting with my primary care doctor, felt verified. It is a lump. Let's get the biopsy, the whole thing. And so then and it was a really quick process because in August I had the biopsy, I had the test results. Yes, it was, and it was triple negative. So I was working with my breast oncologist, and so he said, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to, come up, there will be a team. And I think my daughter will verify because her memory is better than mine. There were about 11 people on our team. And she was running off the whole list. And I was like, oh God, I forgot we even had all of those people on the team. But the way he explained it to me was that the team would meet weekly. They would come up with a plan for how my cancer was going to be treated. To your point, we are a family of a lot of females. We have very few males in our family. And I'm the first and only one who's had breast cancer.
I mean, God, it's so many of us. We have nieces, cousins, all females. Nobody in the family has ever had breast cancer. And so, anyway, so this is a new thing to me. So, anyway, we met with the team. The team said that the way the treatment plan would be 4 weeks of what I call harsh chemotherapy and 12 weeks of mild chemotherapy. So, I was, the chemotherapy was so debilitating. I could barely walk 15 feet after I had the chemotherapy. But I have to tell you about my daughter first, okay? So every meeting, every doctor's appointment, every anything, my daughter was there. If she wasn't there, she was on, we were doing FaceTime when we were in, and this is the way we work together. We are big on doing our homework. Okay. Every doctor that I've ever had, I've done research on them. So when I meet with them, my first conversation is, oh, I did my homework and I see you did this research. I see this is the way you handle it. I see you, I mean, gynecologists, whatever. I did the research. I could tell them their methods that they use and whatever. So in some ways, that kind of endeared me with my with my doctors because they knew, and my daughter did the same thing. She prepared 2 notebooks, okay, that we went through page by page to understand what triple negative was, what the different treatments were. She insisted that I have a second opinion. Of course, I'm the mom. I said I don't want a second opinion. Let's ball rolling and let's go with the treatment. So the chemo was so harsh. I mean, it was, oh God, it just really floored me. The third session, well, first of all, the first 2 sessions were really horrible. My daughter would come in. She had moved in with me then, but she'd come in and she said, "Mom, how you doing?" I'd be going, She said, "You have to speak English. I don't understand that. I can't interpret that. Tell me what's wrong. Tell me what I need to do. Tell me how I can help." Okay, so we got past that. But the third treatment was she called me and she said she checked on me every morning. How you doing? And I said, I'm going downstairs to get a piece of ice. I was in the refrigerator. I was getting an ice cube, little cubes. And the next thing I knew, I was on the floor. And I came to like 2 hours later. It was like 9 o'clock when I passed out, but it was like 11 o'clock. and I and I was on the floor. And you have to forgive me, but I was looking at the baseboard and I was like, oh, that baseboard needs cleaning. and I still had the cup in my hand. And I was like, why am I on the floor? Right? But then I realized I started checking what's broken, but I couldn't move. And so it's in the kitchen. I usually have my phone on my neck, which is my life support. And I had to scoot from the kitchen to the nearest workstation that had like an Alexa, Siri, or somebody, right? And so I scooted to that station and it was like, Siri, phone my daughter, phone my daughter. So it says I have 2 networks. You're not on the right network. So then I had to text her, right? And so she says, what's wrong? So anyway, she came over and I have to tell you this briefly. So she came over and she said, let's call the ambulance. And in terms of preparation, everything, like when the doctors told us that if you get 104 fever, go to the emergency room. So I had people in place. We did a dress rehearsal on how are we gonna get there if I call you and we need to go to the emergency room, where it is, how we check in, all of that. And with her, I said, she said, okay, let's go. Let me call the ambulance. No, let's get out. You know how pregnant women have the bags ready? Let's get the bag. She said, can we call her now? No, let me change clothes. She said, can we call her now? No, get the medical bag with all our medical information. Can we call them now? No, get all of the technology. I need the chargers, I need the phone, I need the computer, everything. She said, can we finally call them? And so I said, yes. And so we went to the hospital. I was in a neutropenic environment. I have to check with her. That's what right word, right? Right.
What's the
And
matter, baby?
so
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 sour.
so so everything they It's almost like the COVID where everybody comes in with a mask and gown and robe and shoes and like, so I was there for like 5 days, and I kept telling them, I said I can't swallow. And when the physical therapist people, occupational therapists brought in the walker for me, I was saying, I was like, I can't swallow. And they said, oh, you need to have a swallow exam, because nobody listened to me when I said I could not swallow. They said, we'll cut your food finder. Okay. But I couldn't swallow it. And so then, so my throat was paralyzed. And so they said, we don't know if it's going to be permanent or not, but sometimes it passes. And so anyway, but Keisha was there with the pureeing of food, with the eating, and she would put stuff in it that I didn't know was in it, like protein or I don't know what. Anyway, she just had me eating through a straw. And so after that, they said I had to come to Jesus meeting, and because now it was whether I'm going to continue with the chemo, because I still had 12 more chemo sessions to do and one more harsh. And so I told her, I said, I've had to come to Jesus meeting. I'm not doing any more chemo. I'm just, we're just gonna let what happens happen. And so what happened was we met with the medical team, and they started out with, we made a decision that you do no more chemo. I said, I'm glad we're on the same page, because I'd also made that decision. They said, and I had dropped 40 pounds in like 3 weeks. And they said, so what we want you to do is get healthy. We're going to do the lumpectomy February the 3rd. They did the lumpectomy, and there was no sign of the lump. There was no sign of the cancer. There was no sign of anything in the lymph nodes as well. And so then I had 33 days of radiation. I think I rung the bell on May 22nd, and I've just been doing my regular checkups, and everything is well. Now this is May, so this is from July to May, and I say, I mean, I'm truly blessed. I'm truly blessed that in a 9-month span, I went through all of this and am now a survivor. So, so that's I say I'm just still processing the journey, because I have, in terms of support groups, I have like 14 friends now who have cancer, and I'm there for them. But my there is understand what the doctor is telling you. Check it out, because we push back on a number of things, and we said, what does the research say? You know, if they would give us some kind of new plan, we said, what does the research say? And so, and plus we would record our meetings, so that when we went home, we could play them back to just see what they told us to do, so that we could follow specifically what they did. And they were really, we ran into people who also had breast cancer, and who were just clueless. I'm going to stop talking right now, and I'm going to turn it over to my daughter, because she can tell you all that she did that I was even unaware of that she was doing. So Keisha. Hello. I don't know if she can hear me. Keisha?
She's on mute.
Oh, you're on mute. Hello? Keisha? Okay. But I can tell you that she got really quite familiar with all of the people who were working with me. She asked the nurses, we needed ice, and the ice machines were broken, and I needed, Thelma, you can help me with this. Keisha, are you there? Okay. I'm sorry. What happened? But anyway, Yeah. So, mhm, right, exactly. Yeah, she did love us. Okay, she is. Well, one of the things that I can share with you is that with the advent of AI technology, sometimes, well, what I do when I go to the portal, I can get my X-rays as well as my, what do I want to say, X-rays and blood tests, and I put it in the AI application. And let me just tell you, the AI application will put out 4 pages of things that I did not know that my doctor did not tell me that the X-rays found, right? And so I'm like, that's when you have to push back and you have to say to them, this is what I found, but you failed to share this with me. You know? Yes, exactly. Yes. Yes, my blood work and my X-ray. I put in because I was diagnosed with diverticulitis, and my doctor just said, no evidence of of diverticulitis, but continue the medication. I'm like, well, what does that mean? And so I just took the report, dropped it in AI. AI gave me 4 pages. It told me I had a suture here. It told me I had intestinal infection back here, some bacteria from my large intestine. It told me about the mass where I had surgery over here. I mean, I was just like, oh my God. So anyway, I just share that little tidbit of information. Okay.
This meeting is being recorded.
Miss Brown, are you there? Okay, while we work on Miss Brown's connection, hopefully we can get her to say a few words when she comes back. But I just want to say thank you so much, Ms. Leonard, for your testimony, lived experience. There's nothing like the lived experience. You don't know.
Can you hear me now?
No. Here we go. Yes, I'll pass the mic over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that. I had had to jump onto another computer because I was having some problems, but you can see me and hear me, correct? Yes.
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to say that some of the things that my mom told a very eloquent, um, you know, story about our journey through this. But there are a few things that made our journey just a bit more complicated and difficult. And that would be that when my mother was diagnosed, as she said, it was in 2019. It was just a few months before COVID hit. And when COVID started to hit in December, and then everything started shutting down in January. By this time, I had moved in with my mom due to her falling in the kitchen, as she said, and making sure that I was there, with her 24/7. With When she got diagnosed with triple negative, we were told from the beginning that there wasn't very much research on triple negative breast cancer. Triple negative breast cancer had only been discovered within roughly 12 to 15 years prior. So they sent us to the breastcancer.org website to pull off information. And when my mom says I created those 2 notebooks, I pretty much printed almost every page I could find on everything about treatment for breast cancer and treatment for triple negative, and then all of those treatments. I researched all of those treatments to find out what all the symptoms were, what all of the side effects were, and then printed those out and made tabs for everything. So that when we went in to meet with the oncologist and the other doctors on the team, we went armed and ready to ask questions. So that was in September. By December and into January, she was in recovery from that fall. And during that time, like she said, she was in a neutropenic room. And and because of her status, being a breast cancer patient, as well as going through chemotherapy, they put the top cardiologist on our team to check to make sure that she was okay. So that added a person to our team. We really started off with an oncologist, a surgeon, a plastic surgeon, and a nurse navigator. When this happened in December, it brought on the cardiologist. When she told them that she couldn't eat the food at the hospital, that's when it brought in a speech pathologist to be added to our team, because she had to have a swallow test. Then we had to be sent to the ear, nose, and throat doctor, which added to our team. Then from there, we throughout the rest of her treatment, she had a radiologist as well. That person was already on the team from the beginning as well. I'm sorry, I didn't mention that. She had a radiologist, a physical therapist. We added a nutritionist. We added a gastroenterologist. This team to make sure my mother was okay. After she was in the hospital for about a week and she came home, she still had problems walking, she still had problems swallowing, and she had lost about 40 pounds within a process of a time span of about 3 months. And so because she couldn't eat, we were concerned. I was concerned because she needed to eat to stay healthy enough and be well enough. And a lot of people don't understand that when you have breast cancer, you have to meet the requirements to even get chemo. If your weight is not up, if your heart is not doing well, if your blood pressure is not well, and all these type of things, you're not automatically given chemotherapy. So keeping her weight up, keeping her healthy enough to even go through treatment was something that was a learning curve for us. We just thought treatment just started, and then you just go through whatever treatment they give to you, or whatever they prescribe for you. But that wasn't the case. Each time she had to come in and make sure that she went through testing to make sure she was able to even receive the chemo. So when they took her off of chemo at the hospital, one of the things that I found was that by talking to people in the hospital, keeping up with her nurse navigator, keeping up with nurses that had treated her when she was coming in to get her chemo treatment, and talking to them in the hospital while she was in there, I learned that my mother was the diagnosis when they got her to the hospital, that she was malnutrition and she was dehydrated. And I happened to need to go get some ice one night, a particular night, because my mom wanted some ice, and the ice machine was broken on the floor that she was on. So I went all the way around to the other side of the hospital to find an ice machine to get her some ice. And I ran into a nurse that had treated her for one of her cancer treatment sessions. And she was asking me how me and my mother were doing. And I told her that she was in the hospital and what had happened. Well, she recommended that my mom come in for hydrotherapy. Some people get this and some people don't, but we weren't offered that at first. So hydrotherapy was just to come in and have her receive the fluids that she wasn't able to get, and she wasn't able to get those fluids because she was having trouble swallowing. And so because she couldn't drink as much water as she normally needed to drink, or fluids to drink, so that she could stay hydrated. And if you're dehydrated, you're not hungry. If you're not hungry, you're not eating, you're losing your weight, and you're not a good candidate for chemotherapy. So that's how we ended up to a place where they needed to take her off of chemo, and I needed to get her healthy. One of the things that I speak to about this being an adult child of a single parent mother who is going through breast cancer is the advocacy that you have to have for your parent and understanding and having empathy for what they're going through. My mother would come out of some of our sessions at first, and we would have to like while we started recording the sessions because it was so much information, it was so overwhelming, it was so fast, and triple negative was such a aggressive cancer, and we had to learn so fast that there were things that she was missing, and I had to keep filling her in on, and I had to recognize that she's going through this, she's dealing with this, she's trying to just wrap her mind around that she's got this, so she can't catch everything. I have to catch what she's missing. I got to catch what falls off the plate. It's too much on her plate. And so because of that, I was armed with questions every day, and I was always there to make sure that they answered to the point where my mother could understand everything that they were saying. We weren't getting out of a meeting with the doctor in 15 minutes. It wasn't you weren't walking out. That doctor knew they weren't getting out of there because we had more questions. I had more questions. And one of the things I learned and came to believe very early on was that healing happens at home. You come in for treatment, you come in for uh, medications, for diagnoses, but when you go home, that's where you're going to heal at. And that's where I was at, making sure that she was doing that she was getting the healing. So since healing happens at home, I needed to know for all of these things that you say that you have to do to my mom and all of these side effects that may happen, I need to know what's my first step if this side effect happens. What's my second step when this side effect happens? What's my third step? How do I make sure that I'm doing what I need to do to make sure my mom is getting the best care at home as well as she's getting here in this hospital? And those doctors had to answer those questions. So to wrap up, it was a very my mom is telling me to wrap it up. It was a very trying experience as a child to take on that lead and take on that step from my mother, but it was one of those things where I just knew that I couldn't look myself in the mirror and not do all of those things. And during COVID, we were alone. My mom was immunocompromised, and there was absolutely no one else that could be there but me. So I had to, handle my feelings about it, but respect hers. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer. Thank you.
And let me just tell you, they had us take all of the plants out of the house. Doing it, yeah, could have no plants in the house. And the other thing is that when I'd go to the doctor, they'd ask for her first. I said, "Where is she?" Because of the bacteria and all of the, yes, right.
Thank you, teacher, but then it's okay now. You're not going through. Right. I have a question for teacher. Can you just share with us your background in 30 seconds as part of your so we have a little better understanding of you?
Keisha, could you hear that? Thelma asked if you could please share with your background in 30 seconds or under.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I work for the Department of Defense in logistics technology. I do special systems for the Department of Defense education activity, which is 160 schools from pre-K through 12 around the world. And in those schools, I make sure that I do all of the requirements and logistical processes to make sure that they have all the technologies that they need in the schools outside of computer technology, projectors, screens, audio systems, these type of things, AEDs, all kinds of technologies. So that's what I do for a living.
In terms of your educational background?
And in
This is
terms
the
of
educational
education,
background.
yes.
I'm a graduate of Prairie View A&M University. And I also have a master's degree from Langston University in Oklahoma. So I'm sorry, Prairie View A&M University in Texas and Langston University in Oklahoma. I got my master's degree in education and educational technology, to be exact. And I have completed all but the dissertation for a doctorate from Washington State University in Pullman, Washington.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Something I would like to just touch on, and not just briefly, but briefly, just given our time constraints right now, is in terms of preparation. In terms of preparation, building a support system is crucial. Keisha, thank you, 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 thank you. And to all those other support systems people who are on this call right now, thank you for all you do for your loved ones, both far and near. You are very busy. You had your own life, but what did you do? You moved in with mom to help her clean the baseboards. God bless you.
Yes. And can I just make a statement about what about that? I mean, not only did I move in with my mom, one thing, just 20 seconds. My mom, it was one time my mom was like, I can take an Uber to my doctor's appointment. And I was like, not on my watch. You are not getting in the car with anybody. You are not getting it with you're not going anywhere with anybody. You're going with me. I'm taking you there and I'm bringing you home. And like I said, we were during COVID time and everything was shut down. So I would work from my vehicle. I would park my vehicle next to next to the hospital as close as possible to get their internet. And I would sit in my car and take meetings and do my work and everything during her sessions so that I could be there and answer the phone call and also bring her back home. So they would call me in the parking lot from her consultation after her session or after a meeting with the doctor to see if I had questions. And I would sit in that car and have meetings with them because I couldn't go into the hospital. It was COVID. Only she could go in. So we did that as well. So it was a time I wouldn't wish that on anyone where you can't have other family members around, but I can tell you that nothing is impossible. The word itself means I'm possible.
Amen. Amen. And you are worthy. This is real talk, people. I hope you are all listening. This is real talk. You can't make these stories up. The peer lived experience is real. The peer lived experience is real. Yes, Miss Leonard went through something, but what did Keisha go through? Keisha's the daughter. The family's brought into this. Your support systems are so integral. And what I'm listening to, I'm telling you, is rare. It's rare. Come to some of the cancer wards I've been on. You rarely see family members because of the secrets that we keep. Because we don't want to get involved. It's too much trouble for me. I got my own life to live. I can't deal with mom and uncle. I'm just keeping it real. I'm bringing on the personas of the people I see. Is what I do. It's rare. So Keisha, thank you so much for being there for mom. The support system is everything. When you're going through chemo, your mind is in a different place. Your body is torn. Your mental is messed up. You can't even breathe. You can't even see. Stand up. Grabbing a piece of ice and you fell 2 hours later. Thank you, Siri. Thank you, Alexa. Thank you, all this technology that we have now. It would have made it harder for you to get in contact with your daughter. But what is she there for? To listen, to hear things that you're not listening because your mind is elsewhere. You're not paying attention to what the doctors are saying. Blah, 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 blah. It means nothing to you. You just, okay. But the support system is there to support you, to listen, to hear, to take notes, to record information, for you to help process later. Miss Jones, Thelma.
Move on. I want to mention that Janelle is profiled in the latest
December
newsletter of the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund, and you can see the.
So please check that out. So please check it out. Janelle's story is in December edition of the TDJBCF December newsletter. So please check that out. Okay. Support is everything, and advocacy, having someone listen for you when you don't have the strength to listen for yourself, to process that information. Those doctors wanted to hear from Keisha because they were giving they were giving them a run for their money. And they knew that, your daughter was there for you. Another thing to also mention, cancer is different from other diagnoses, just given the number of practitioners that are involved. Radiologists, your PCP, your oncologists, your hematologists, cardiologists, surgeons, nutritionists, non-medical case managers that will help you with your insurance that you have or don't have. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. You heard that. How can someone dealing with cancer navigate 11 plus healthcare providers? They need support. So for those of you on the call that know other people, please send out the word that the advocacy is so important to be there for your loved ones. And I'm glad you're still processing. You are still processing. And something we're grateful for is Keisha's empathy has gone up like times 1,000. So let's praise God for that. And as a family, you're growing and developing in different ways. You learn new communication patterns, living together. All of a sudden, someone coming to move under your roof again. Thank God that happened. Let's continue moving on. I want to share with you another story this evening from Asia White, daughter of Judith Owens. She's also triple negative breast cancer survivor. Ms. White, are you here with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, good to see. Oh, look at you in your festive holiday best. Love
Yay.
it, love it, love it. The floor is all yours. Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Asia, and I am truly grateful to join you all tonight on Zoom from Virginia Beach. I'm excited about this opportunity to participate in more events with the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund. This topic tonight is very close to my heart. I experienced this journey as both a child and an adult. Bear with me. This is my first time speaking about it in the public, so I hope my story resonates with someone. For me, my mom's diagnosis unfolded in two eras of my life. The first one in April 2002, I was around 12 years old. My birthday is also in April, but my mom waited until after my birthday to tell me so I could enjoy the celebration. She was diagnosed with breast cancer. At that age, I was too young to grasp the full meaning of the word cancer. Like, I was scared. I didn't fully comprehend it. I didn't comprehend the weight until the day she came home bald. That moment shattered the illusion. It made everything feel real. Even then, my mom leaned on her village, our network of loved ones and friends, my dad, my friends, her friends. I can remember spending weekends with her friends or at my own friends' homes while she underwent treatment, or they would come over and cook for us. My mom, although she was old school, she always was honest with me about her fight. It was a lot. Watching her face cancer was tough. But then she went to remission, and I saw her as my superhero. I thought the battle was over, that cancer was behind us for good. Then life goes on. Fast forward to July 2019. I was 29 years old. We were in New York, my mom's hometown. Go Giants, celebrating the 4th of July. My mom, she tried to show us her Brooklyn double dutch skills, and she ended up falling. That fall was a blessing in disguise. She went to the emergency room twice. They just told her it was a sprained muscle, and she finally went to the VA. The doctor didn't like what it looked like, didn't like what she saw. And it led them to discover that she had stage 4 triple negative breast cancer and that it had metastasized to her bones. As an adult, that reality hit hard. I'm still working through that. I did have a deeper understanding that life isn't a fairy tale and forever doesn't truly last, which made it even harder. I started noticing the signs, the thinning hair, the weight loss, the fatigue, just difference. And, then one day, I went to go hug my mom, and this hug was a lot different, you know? I realized how frail she had become after all the treatment, doctor's appointments. You notice that frailness, and that was the moment that I realized this battle, um, it wasn't going to be like the last time. Um, but through all of that, our village stepped in, my mom's friends, my family, my daughter's family, my friends, can't thank them enough. But among them was my mom's Navy friend, Miss Cynthia Robinson. I'm sorry. She's the younger sister of Miss Thelma. Miss Cynthia has been a constant presence in my life even before I was born, and I don't even know how long before that. She would come and sit with my mom. She would take her to appointments and just sit, talk, just be a comfort to her. They're both Navy retirees, so they had that bond. My friends, they stepped in. They helped me navigate the emotions and responsibilities that I had. My mom was a single parent, and I'm an only child, so you all know how that goes. Um, this time, the weight was so much more heavy, but I also got to witness the incredible power of love and support in helping us weather the storm during and eventually after. Um, as a mom now, I also have a daughter. So I do think about this. I think about when I have to talk to my daughter, and I often reflect on how I would guide her through a similar situation. I use my mom's example because I did have to guide her through that as well. Although she was my mom, my daughter's an only child, and we all live together. Um, I went to, I talked to my daughter. I told her what to expect, I didn't expect my mom to come home bald. Although she told me, I just didn't get it. But I told my daughter, I told her what was going to happen, that JoJo was going to maybe look different at times. She was going to not be able to do a lot of the things that she could do with you. I also made sure to tell her family, her dad's family came through as well. I made sure they knew that when she would go over to them, she may need a little bit more love when she goes over there. She may need a little bit more guidance when she goes over there. And there may be times where I have to call you guys at a drop of a dime, and I need somebody to come get her within 5 minutes because I got to do something for my mom. I also talked to her school, all her teachers, the counselor, all the teachers, security guard, any teacher that had any contact with my daughter. I talked to them. I let them know what was going on, so they knew if anything changed with her, please let me know. Although I have to be there for my mom, I also have to be a mom. So I just used everybody I had around me, my friends, to come get her, watch her. They were on call. Anything I needed, they were there. Um, and also, like, just to make sure that I remind her that there will be good days and bad days, but on both those days, she has me and her village. I know you guys talked about hereditary breast cancer. My mom did tell me, and the genetic testing. I know you guys talked about that. I have not done genetic testing yet, and I was gonna lie and say it's because I don't have health insurance, but honestly, I'm truly scared to go. Ignorance can feel like bliss especially when you've seen cancer take so much from you. But I know the day is gonna come soon where I have to face it. Because my daughter deserves a mom who's proactive and brave. Um, Before I go, Miss Thelma had asked me what advice would I give a young girl or a girl going through this, and I didn't quite know how to say anything, or I didn't quite know how to put the words into anything. So I decided to write a letter to myself. So if you guys bear with me. So, dear Asia, I know you've heard all the cliches and they're not helping right now, but one day these words might mean something. First, I want you to know how strong you are. This is hard, harder than anyone your age must deal with, but you're not alone. It's okay to feel scared, sad, or angry. Just talk to someone you trust. Cry if you need to, or write it all down. Let yourself feel. If you don't understand what's happening, ask questions. Knowledge makes things less scary. Your mom's love for you hasn't changed, and it never will. Keep doing what makes you happy. Laugh, play, find joy. Your happiness doesn't mean you love your mom any less. It's how you can bring light to her during this tough time. And remember this, our role, yours, mine, our villages, is to find strength in the middle of the storm. You're stronger than you think, and you're surrounded by love. You will get through this. Sincerely, you. So if anybody has any questions for me, I'm here.
Asia, you're phenomenal.
Thank
You're
you.
phenomenal. On behalf of the Thelma Doris Jones Breast Cancer Fund, just want to extend our deepest condolences to you.
Thank you.
It's not been an easy journey, and for you to speak tonight, to share your truth and your reality for the first time, we are honored to be in your presence.
Thank you.
Yes, if
We
I
are
could say
honored to be in
something,
your presence. Please.
can I say something?
Yes, please.
I'm a friend of Asia's, and I just want to say that through the journey for her, it has been a tough one. But JoJo, our beloved JoJo, she walks with us. She's here with us, and we could never forget that classic look over that JoJo was gonna give you and say, "Get it together," because JoJo didn't play. JoJo did not play, and we talk about this all the time, but she is strong. And for you to come on here, Asia, and just speak so eloquently and just share your story is amazing. And I love you and Peyton and Judy and everybody else. I'm very proud of you. Very, very proud.
Amen. Thelma, please.
My question is, what one thing did you wish your mother had told you more about before she transitioned? And what one thing you wish you had said to your mother before she left?
Did you hear that question? What one thing do you wish your mother could have shared with you before she transitioned? And what one thing, Thelma? And what one thing do you wish you had told your mother before she had transitioned?
Me and my mom had like a very open, very close and open and honest relationship after the second diagnosis. There was no way around it. We got honest. I was very honest with my mom. She knew exactly who her child was. And I definitely knew who my mom was. I do wish we could have shared more about our history and maybe like just how to go through life without her, honestly. Like, we navigated breast cancer, twice together. Although her battle wasn't successful, we navigated it. You know, she told me all the history of our family, like what our immediate family had. Um, so, but just navigating life, if the battle wasn't won, I wish she would have told me. Something I wish I would have told my mom is she didn't have to suffer for me. I think my mom held on a long time. And I just wish she would have done, you know, wouldn't have thought about me during that time and just thought about herself. And but I'm thankful for her being my mom. She will never not be my mom. She'll always be my mom. So I think that's about it.
Thank you so much for those words. She did what she had to do for herself, and she did what she had to do for you because she loves you, and she still loves you.
Yeah.
And if I may, I think she has taught you a few things along the way,
Yeah.
and you've mentioned them. She
Mhm.
taught you how she leaned into her community, into her support systems and networks. And what
Yes.
you went right ahead and wrapped into that and leaned into your support systems so you could take care of your thriving daughter at the same time.
Yes. I'll be honest, I wasn't the Keisha. I was not at every doctor's appointment asking all the questions. I did a
Keisha,
couple.
you set a record here.
No, like I wish I was, but I'm emotional. Like I'm over here crying. That's why I didn't put makeup on. I'm over here bawling. So my mom was a Navy person, born and raised in Brooklyn, like, you know, straight faced, real sergeant. Okay. So I wasn't that, but I made sure I was aware of everything she's going through. I would take her to some of her treatments. The doctor consultations wasn't really because any bad thing, I was like bawling. I was able to be there for her last consultation when she made the choice of going on for another treatment or hospice. And I thank God for putting all the pieces in place for that. But I was the one, I cooked dinner, cleaned, sit and watch Power for 3 hours, go to the grocery store, go to Macy's early in the morning to get the best deals. Like, you know, that was me.
And that's how you also took care of yourself during that time.
Yes.
Retail therapy, numbing yourself with TV and other people's stories, vitally important. Vitally important. I know, as you've mentioned, you almost lied to us, but instead you chose to tell the truth of your own trepidation and towards the idea of genetic testing.
Yeah.
That you have a family that's online with you right now, and you have a community here to support you through that when you so choose, if you so choose. Okay?
Well, it's a win. It'll come. It's soon. I just took some time off for it.
Understandable. God bless you.
I do want to chime in. I am Thelma's sister, Cynthia, and as she said,
I understand.
Yao.
Oh,
Judy and I, we, like she said, our full military career was together. She went that way, I went this way, and we come back together. But we end up being pregnant together. Like she said, I knew her when she was in her mother womb. So she was born April the 9th. My son was born March the 15th, and do keep him in prayer. He had a bout of cancer in 2015 at 25 years old with Hodgkin lymphoma. So as he said, know your genes, even with anything or anybody in your family. But Asia, know that I'm here for. Anybody that I need to pull in, I will pull in. She know that she can ask for anything, and she know that her and Peyton is part of family, and I will always be there for her and will always love her and protect her and keep her and keep her spiritually grounded too, as well as emotional and everything. And I'm so proud of her. You know, this was short notice. And like she said, she took the mantle and she ran with it and she did an awesome job. Love
Amen.
you.
Thank you so much for that, Anseth, and just being there for another person to sit, to cook, to clean,
Yeah.
offer to take a child to daycare or pick up from school, take a loved one to a medical appointment. Prayers, prayers, being there in prayer, just sitting and being with a human being. There's an energy exchange, even in something that seems so simple. It's not simple. It's a beautiful thing when two people can sit in the same room, whether speaking or not speaking. It goes a long way. I remember when Thelma was going through her bout and the time that I spent with her, those little moments count for everything. So let's keep those other ways of being in mind. Thank you so much, Aunt Cynthia.
Yes.
And our last speaker for this evening, want to bring Miss Booker to speak. Is Miss Booker here?
Hi, I'm online.
Hello there. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Very well. Good to have you here this evening. Thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I wanted to be there with you all. I am here in DC, but I am fighting one of these bugs that's going around, and I didn't want to contaminate anybody. But Ms. Jones, again, thank you for having me be part of your community. I am Dionne Booker, founder of Legacy of Hope DC, advocates for breast cancer awareness in Black women and families. What made me start this organization is the deep history of breast cancer in my family on my maternal side. When I was younger, I had a great aunt who passed away from breast cancer. Her daughter also passed away from ovarian cancer. But then, you know, I don't want to say it was the norm, but it seemed like back then when they said, oh, someone has breast cancer, it was like, oh, this is how old women or old people pass away. It's usually cancer. So we didn't know the seriousness or the traits or the patterns of cancer. From there, my aunt had breast cancer and she's our survivor. And I believe her daughters are online as well. And her breast cancer was triple negative as well. My mom lost her battle with triple negative breast cancer in December of 2013, and my sister has lost her battle with triple negative breast cancer March this year. I never thought to get genetic testing until my sister's breast cancer. And when we talk about advocating for ourselves, if you don't, they won't. Because when my sister disclosed to us that she had cancer, because we go back to talking about secrets, she held on to it. She didn't tell anybody. And by the time we found out she was metastatic, it was in every single organ, her brain, her heart, everywhere, and in her bones. But when my sister disclosed to us and we started going to doctors, they tested my sister and her BRCA gene was negative, but they didn't test her for anything else. And they told my niece, well, you know, it's no need for you to get tested because your mom's test was negative. So, of course, we're going to have her tested anyway. And now they're saying that they're still going by, you're not supposed to get a mammogram until, you know, a certain age, but people are developing breast cancer in their 20s now. So if you're not advocating for yourself, and if you go into a doctor's office and you tell them what you want and they tell you, well, you're too young, do it anyway. And tell them you want it done anyway. So when my sister found out, we started going to the doctor. I personally did not want her to have any treatment because it was already everywhere. Nothing could be done about it. But of course, the doctor's going to do whatever the insurance will pay for. So they decided that because the cancer on the brain, they were saying that it could not be treated with chemo, they were started with radiation. And then the radiation made her really weak. And we went to her oncologist 3 times. The first 2 times they attempted with chemo. The first time she had a fever. The second time she was weak. She was too weak for it. And then the third time the oncologist finally said, this is something that we shouldn't do. But honestly, I do believe that my sister knew that there was nothing else that she could do. That's why she did the treatment anyway. And I think she did that for my niece. So my niece just turned 22 years old in November, and that's her only child. So I do believe that she went through that treatment for her. But if I had it my way, I would have taken her somewhere to the beach because she loved the beach. I would have taken her out of town to the beach and we would have stayed there until she transitioned. But she chose to go the way that, she chose to do it the way that she wanted to do. So I have an amazing support system. Some of them are online now. And that's one thing that I am grateful for, because when it came down to planning my sister's funeral, I did not know how to move forward in doing any of it. I couldn't take that step to do it. When I was her caregiver, I really didn't cry much because I felt like if I did, I would not be able to bring myself back together to be there for her. So, I mean, people say to me like, Dionne, I don't know how you not crying. If that was me, I would be this and I would be that. And I was like, well, I don't have time to cry. And all I knew was take care of my sister. That's all I knew. And when it was time to make the plans, I don't know how I would have done it without my cousins. And some of my cousins are online, and I believe 2 of them are the daughters. I don't know if all 3 are here, but my surviving aunt has 3 daughters, and I believe 2 of them online now. So they are the daughters of our family's survivor. So with the genetic testing, I think that is something that everybody in our family needs to do. And I sent out a text in our group chat, like we need to get tested, including the men. Everybody needs to get tested. So it just comes down to talking, not keeping those secrets, because when you keep those secrets, you put your whole family at risk, because if we don't know what's going on, then it's taken away our opportunity to do what we need to do to take care of ourselves as well. And it also comes down to that support system. Like Asia said, like she's not the one for the doctor, but she did the cooking and the cleaning and the things like that. But I was there, I was at the doctor's appointments, and I was doing all of the home health care. We did have to hire in-home hospice, but I did all of her bathing, feeding her. I didn't want anybody else to touch her. So, but everybody else, they rallied around, they came around. But my sister did request that come and see her one time. Don't come in and out, because she didn't want it to be like, hospital visits. She said, just come and see her once or twice and no more. So my family did just that. They came over, they brought food, they sat and talked to her. They didn't come anymore, but they were there and they held it down like no other. And I will forever be grateful for them. And I thank Ms. Jones again for bringing me into her community. When I first started this organization, she's the first person that I shared my idea with, and she just welcomed me. And she was actually a recipient of our first fundraiser in October. And we will be having one every year. So thanks again, everyone. If anybody has any questions, or if either of my cousins, if anyone has questions for either of my cousins as daughters of a surviving mother.
Yes, we have a question. So the question is, how are you currently dealing with your loss?
Therapy. I do everything that I need to do, physically, mentally, emotionally. I go for my doctor's visits. I did my genetic testing. I try to not harbor any negativity. I'll try and working on not to have any malice in my heart for anybody. And keeping a peaceful environment around myself, meditation, exercise, all of the above. But it was really hard, and I feel like it hasn't even reached its peak because it's still processing for me, especially with losing my sister, because aside from my mom, and something that's also personal to me, I was recently divorced like 2 weeks ago. So the only really things that was constant in my life was my sister and my husband. And I don't have either of them anymore. So that in itself is something else that I'm processing. So I just try to stay positive and go to therapy. And whenever I know that I'm going to grieve, I don't fight it anymore, because I used to like stop myself from crying, like, okay, I don't have time to cry right now. But I actually release it now. And, if it takes me 2 days to come back from it, then it takes me 2 days to come back from it. So I just continue to do what I need to do to mostly stay emotionally and mentally well.
Thank you so much for that feedback.
Thank you.
It's so, yes, we have another question. The legacy of hope, was it created in the memory of your sister? That's another question. What inspired the formation? You did mention your family history.
Yeah, so I do believe that my sister's death was the catalyst. But in planning, because it initially started as, let's plan a party to celebrate Sabrina. But then I thought about it and I'm like, no, it's more than just Sabrina. Like, we have it in our family, so we need to do more than this. And from there, I said, we need to do more. Let's start an organization. And with the organization, my main goal is to bring more awareness to these Black-owned breast cancer organizations, because the other one gets enough money. So we need to bring our goal is to bring all of the Black-owned breast cancer organizations to the forefront and have a fundraiser every year and have recipients of the fundraisers for every year. So yes, my sister's death was mainly, but it is in remembrance of all of the women that we lost in our family.
Thank you so much for all you're doing. And please do stay in touch with Thelma Doris Jones Breast Cancer Fund, so we can continue.
Absolutely. She's made me a community partner, and I'm so grateful for that. So I'll absolutely be in touch.
Amen.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing. And again, our deepest condolences with all the loss that you're experiencing in different ways. And we're here for you.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
So welcome. Like to speak? I'm going to hand the mic over to our fearless leader and founder, Thelma Doris Jones.
Thank you so much, Yao. Let's give Yao Odamtten a big hand. And for the expertise that he has brought here and added insight to a challenging subject. I want to thank all of our wonderful speakers, starting with Dionne Brown, her sister, Crystal Stone. I certainly want to thank Keisha Brown and her mom, Janelle Leonard, who live right here in the neighborhood. I also want to thank Asia White for sharing her story with us. And of course, our last but not least speaker and our partner, Niani. So thank you so much. Thank you for our audience. We've shared a wealth of information here tonight. As much as I think that I know about breast cancer, it is one of the things that you're always in a learning mode. And I certainly have gained a lot of insight and knowledge from tonight's meeting. And I hope, or at least know, that you have as well. The meeting is being recorded. We will send it out. And I encourage you, to share this on your Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, or any other form that you have that can share, because these stories, the information and insight shared tonight should be shared globally. So thank you again for helping to make the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund special in that sense, in the information that we're sharing with others. I want to share several announcements in an abbreviated way, starting with the announcement here at our church. On Sunday, December the 22nd, we're having the 30th annual Christmas concert. There is a flyer over on the table, so I won't read all of the details of it, but I encourage you to pick up a flyer. We also are having a noon time service on December the 24th, where we will be doing at 1 p.m. Christmas carol, coffee, tea, and treats, and another number of other things. So if you don't have a home church and you don't want to be alone during the holidays, come and celebrate with us. Also, Westminster is having Westminster Presbyterian at 400 I Street is having at least 3 events. You may want to visit their website, but I have here with me their New Year's Eve on December the 31st from 9 to 12:30, and it's Bobby Felder Blues Brothers. For the generation, for us who've been around for a while, we know that Bobby Felder is like the Michael Jackson for blues. So I would encourage you to come out to that, and there are flyers there as well. I often share things about Westminster because, as many of you may recall, Westminster was the fiduciary agent for the Thelma D. Jones Breast Cancer Fund for about 5 years. And I still maintain a good partnership relationship with them. Our next breast cancer support group meeting will be via Zoom and the Thelma D. Jones Facebook Live, where that meeting is, I want to say let me not give the wrong date, but it's the 3rd Wednesday in September. I'm sorry, the third Wednesday in September is my birthday month. It is Wednesday, thank you, Yao. Wednesday, January the 15th, 6:30 p.m. Again, it will be via Zoom and the Thelma D. Jones Facebook Live. That meeting, always in January, we start the year off on advocacy. We spoke a lot tonight about advocacy, but that meeting will be totally dedicated to advocacy. And one of the confirmed speakers is Sylvia Powers, who is with the National Coalition of Breast Centers, an organization that recently selected me as a co-chair for their steering committee to plan their 26th annual conference. And last but not least is I've sent out quite a bit of information on Voices of Black Women. And hopefully you have seen information about the American Cancer Society Voices of Black Women, which is a groundbreaking long-term study led by that organization. And it is basically to better understand health conditions like cancer and to learn how to improve overall health among Black women. Our enrollment goal is 100,000 women over the next few years. And this goal is achieved as a collective type effort, and that effort starts with you. So we're looking for women between the ages of 25 to 55 with no history of cancer except basal or squamous skin cancer. And to get more information about the study, please log on to voices.org. Here in the DC area, well, Maryland and DC, we've recruited 198 women. Maryland has recruited 277. And overall, we've recruited 2,758. So as you can see, this is an important work in progress, and I really need your support. So again, I want to thank you for being here tonight, and particularly I want to thank our speakers who spoke from out of town, Keisha Brown in Houston, Texas, and Asia White, who spoke from Virginia Beach and had her village online, and my sister Cynthia Harper Robinson and her husband Jerry Robinson, among others who were on the line as well. So thank you, and I will turn it back over to you, Yao, for closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Thelma. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining this evening. We've covered a broad range of topics, from advocacy, self-advocacy, familial advocacy, to shared lived experience. We've talked about death. We've talked about living. We've talked about support and what support looks like, what support can look like. But we also talked about what support does not look like. Let us try to veer more towards supporting one another versus living in our quietude, living in our secrets because we can't share our diagnoses with other people because we are also afraid. But there's nothing wrong with being afraid. If the best friend is your sister or your brother or a close confidant, perhaps they could be the ones who just share that bit of information with so that you're not alone. You don't have to be alone. It's a choice that we make. We don't have to be alone. And no matter what happens, we're here to support one another. And that's why the Doris Jones Breast Cancer Fund is here. And that's why we have other organizations like Legacy of Hope DC. We're beginning to ramp up, and it's beautiful to see these voices of beautiful Black chocolate women speaking their truths, getting the care that they need. My mother needs, my sister needs, my niece needs. This is what it's all about. We have to care for one another. Thank you so much for being here this evening. To all those online, bless you, bless you, bless you. Continue doing the grieving, the crying, the letting it out. It's integral, like a rainstorm, but after the storm, the water seeps into the ground, the grass steeps up, the sun comes out again, and we begin anew. The cycle of life. It's also the cycle of our emotions. They're real. Bottle it up like a champagne bottle, and poof, it pops. Okay. Thank you again. Blessings. We'll see you January 15th, 6:30. Be here, be square, and bring more people. Okay. Bring one to your right and bring one to your left. So let's get these numbers up. Okay. Let's get these numbers up. God bless you all, and happy holidays.
Good night. Thank you.
Merry Christmas and thank y'all.
Could I say one quick little thing? We have to also thank Sergio for all his help with all this technology, everybody who's on Zoom, getting the PowerPoint up, the projection screen. Without him, woo, I'm not sure what we'd be doing right now. So thank you, Sergio, for your help. Many blessings.
Thank you, Sergio. Yes.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Night. Merry Christmas, everyone. God bless.